Let's see here. I am so freaking glad you're on our show today, John. I got John Meese today, everybody. Hey, guys. Welcome,
Hey, everybody.
Group Coach Nation.
Thank
John,
you,
man,
Chris,
so
for
glad
having
you're
me.
here, dude. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
So John and I were talking back in September of last year, and John's an expert at launching and marketing with a book. So John was nice enough to come on our show today just to talk that through, just grassroots level, kind of take the mystery out of it. John, you don't know this. I'm actually in the middle of writing a book right now.
Oh, that's exciting.
I have not said that publicly on this platform yet. Oh my gosh. So I'm super scared about it. And you know what I'm most scared about is, well, for one, I'm not a great reader. I do everything on Audible. So I don't connect to books, okay? I connect to audio and I retain audio. And so all the book offers, book funnels, free plus shipping, whatever, all those things, I've never been able to get my brain around or untangle because I don't know how to do it. I'm not good at the book thing. So Junaid, what's up, buddy?
Good morning.
Oh man, I know, right? So awesome to see Junaid. Junaid, by the way, John, you got to meet with Junaid. Junaid is crushes the studio space. If you want to create a studio in your workspace there.
Which I do. There's a room. I'm inside a co-working space I own, and literally out my window right here, there's a room that's currently full of boxes, which is in my head as an AV studio. So.
Yeah, and sorry, John. John, you just moved into the new space, 4,000 square feet of co-work space that he hosts. So I'm catching an awkward moment when you don't have a studio set up and recommending you
It's true. I'm in a blank meeting room with white walls.
Yeah, that's not nice at all. Anyway, John, I got this book thing going. It's coming out in probably spring or summer. Can you kind of help us all just demystify, how do we market with a book? I don't know where you want to start. How did you write a book? How do you use it? What works?
Well, Chris, I think I know exactly where to start. It's with you. We'll talk about you. I think that's where we should start today if you're already in this process. So the first thing I can say is I do need to correct one thing you said. I would not call myself an expert in this because I am new enough in it, but I am exploring it and actively experimenting with it. And so I'm willing to put on the, maybe the lab professor kind of hat or something like that. But I wouldn't necessarily yet call myself an expert in this. But as I said that, and which in my head, when you said expert, I was like, that was in my head. And then I thought, well, let me do the math real quick. 80% of people on the planet want to write a book in their lifetime. Every room you go into, it doesn't matter what demographic it is. You ask, hey, raise your hand if you want to write a book in your lifetime. 80% of the room there will raise their hand. Yeah. Less than 1% of the planet ever, less than 1% of people on this planet ever write and publish a book. So really? I was like, as I was going in my head, I was like, okay, all right, I'm not an expert, but I'm in the top 1%. And then I thought, oh, okay, of that 1%, now here's where I'm going to have to estimate because I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but the vast majority of books published today sell 250 copies in their first year, and then 1,000 copies in the lifetime of the book.
What? Oh my gosh, that's so painful.
It's painful because it's a lot of work.
So much work. Junaid's writing a book right now, right?
Oh, good. Perfect timing. Yeah.
1% club right there, Junaid. Welcome to the party, man. Oh, and by the way, good morning, JL, man. Good to see you there, bud.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. So my point of that and bringing that is even as I said, even in my head, I was going well, I'm not an expert. I'm like, okay, well, I'm actually in the top 1% because I published a book. And then because I've sold more than 250 copies and then more than 1,000 copies, I guess I'm in the top 1% of the top 1%. So sure, fine. I'll take the title. But regardless, I think the first thing I would say is the reason why it's such a small percentage of people who set out to write a book actually do it is because it's hard work. It's not a get rich quick scheme. But it is incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly prestigious, and it can be incredibly lucrative for your business. And so I can talk about my approach to that, but I can also say this: the minute I finished my first book, I got started on my second book, which is done. So,
so you got hooked, the process.
Yeah, I'm hooked. I've already kind of outlined my third book, and I've got a running list of book ideas, which none of them I've officially committed to yet, but yes, I do have 8 different books in that list. So I'm going to be busy for a little while. But publishing that first one took me, it was a decade probably that I wanted to write a book and was like, I don't know. And then it actually took a little thing called COVID-19 to get me to write it, as we had this global lockdown, you may remember. And this was when it was people basically had a few options. You could binge Tiger King. You could learn how to make your own sourdough bread. Do you remember this? This time
Yes.
I'm talking about?
Yes.
Or you could hole yourself in your office and write the rough draft of a book, which is what I
The three options I kept seeing were hunk, monk, or drunk.
Yes,
Those
I forgot about that.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Author was
I
never
think
one of the things on my
no,
go-to though.
author is somewhere between monk and drunk, actually. So it's there. So I wrote this book during that time. So it's called Survive and Thrive: How to Build a Profitable Business in Any Economy, Including This One. Now, and partly because immediately when the lockdown happened, I recognized, oh my gosh, everybody's freaking out about this very real health crisis. But wait a minute, this is actually a triple health crisis because the first crisis is a health crisis. The second is a mental health crisis because people were locked away from socialization, from their habits, from their routines. They felt powerless. And the third crisis is an economic crisis. And that's really the one that I said, well, wait a minute. I'm the nerd wearing the glasses modeled after John Nash's glasses, the Nobel Prize winning economist, and who used to work for an economics research lab and is on my third startup. I could probably do something about the economics problem. And so I wrote my book as a playbook to say, look, the only way we're going to really turn this, I can't really help with the health problem. And so it's just a waste of energy for me to spend too much time there. And the mental health problem, I can, I'm an advisor for a company that does therapy and wellness. And I'm like, okay, great. We can focus on the mental health stuff over there. But then my job is in the economic space to say, I need to give people a playbook that can help them thrive in any economy, including this one.
Cool.
So that was my motivation. And Chris, I would say the first place to start is just to start with why. It is important to have a strategic why in your business for a book, but you also need to have a deep personal why. And for me, it was that I knew that the only way we're going to make the world a better place for my kids, for us as in our older age, is if we have a massive entrepreneurial revolution. And we just have this massive shift because entrepreneurship in 2018 was at an all-time low in the US, or like a 70-year low. And you think, yeah. And just like in terms of, and at a weird time where like actually entrepreneurs are the celebrities. I mean, you look like the cover of Times Magazine is Elon Musk, or you've got, like all these entrepreneurs, ever since Steve Jobs have been kind of revered. But at the same time, the number of new startups every year has been declining. And now, of course, what's interesting now is that actually since 2020, since the first quarter of 2020, when the world went a little crazy, we've actually had record-breaking quarter after quarter after quarter in terms of new startups. So, and that's where this great resignation is happening. Actually, a third of people who are part of this great resignation and leave their jobs are actually leaving to start their own company. And so we are having this entrepreneurial revolution, and I can't claim full credit for it, or even partial credit. Really, I can claim a very tiny piece
of book came out, man. Your book just turned the tide.
Once my book came out, it was like, yeah, the great resignation. I was like, sorry guys, you're welcome.
Those 1,000 copies hit the streets. Everybody was like, yeah. Okay, so all of us here, Group Coach Nation, are experts. Like that's the community we have, and we're all selling our expertise in some front, like you are with a book and consulting and all this stuff you do. But how did you use? So you had an idea and a passion. You had to have a reason.
Yeah.
Like, so do you want to go on the path of how you actually wrote the book, or what you did with it once you wrote it? Because
why don't I summarize the path? Because I think that could be overwhelming for a lot of people, but I love to dive into what I'm doing with it now and kind of how it supports my business. Because I think that's the strategic why. Like you have to have a personal why, and that's going to be different regardless of what your niche is, what your expertise is, of a personal reason why you're passionate about a book, because it is a heck of a lot of work and you don't get paid for a long time. Like it's one of those things where you do all of the work up front with no compensation up front, and then eventually it's good for you. And so you have to have a really compelling why to keep you through, to get you past the 40,000 word mark, or whatever that milestone is that really starts to really stress you out. So I can say the process for me is after I drafted the book during lockdown, then I said, oh, this is a pretty good playbook for how to start a business. But and I love that comment.
That's a great comment, JL. Yeah, entrepreneurs built this country. Men like Vanderbilt, Carnegie, Rockefeller.
Yep.
And more. Yeah, it's so true.
I would argue entrepreneurs built the world. But yes, I would also agree with you on that. There's all the good things in life you can trace back to coming from either the original creator or a secondary creator, which is, for me, like entrepreneurship is actually a theological.
We got to build stuff, right?
Of creating, after I'm the one who I made it the image of. But
I love that.
The book, for me, the process, the draft, I was like, this is a pretty good playbook, but who am I? I'm just some guy who's bootstrapped a few companies, and I have a limited amount of experience. So I want to make sure this is three-dimensional. And so I took my rough draft, and then I went and I interviewed about 30 of my mentors. And so people like Michael Hyatt, Mike Michalowicz, Ray Edwards, Alan Dibb, Philip Stutz, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, many, many others. And all of these interviews are, by the way, on my podcast, the Thrive School podcast.
Yeah.
But I interviewed them.
By the way, John's podcast, just to interrupt you, Thrive School, look
Please.
it up on wherever you find your podcast. Thrive School is really good.
Thank you. There's a great episode on there I recommend with Chris Williams. Yeah, I recommend the episode.
Yeah, that Chris Williams episode. Oh my gosh. Right?
Yeah.
Right there next to Michael Hyatt. Like once you get to Michael Hyatt, you just keep scrolling. And like 3 hours later, once you get done scrolling, you'll find Chris Williams down there. Yeah.
That was actually a missed opportunity for me. I needed to make a mental note of that because I could have said like I interviewed all the, I could have included you in that list of names. Sorry. But regardless, so I took all of their frame, like asking them like, what are you doing in the midst of this crisis, and how have you succeeded in the past, and what are you doing? What, like, in other words, let's take away all the fluff of like when the economy is not doing well, what are the things that matter? Because by the way, those things still work when the economy is doing well. That's just, this is the unshakable core of your business. And so I took all those interviews and I transcribed them, pulled out my favorite parts, and I included those as anecdotes in the book, and I edited the book based on that because there were things that I missed. And then my editor told me that, no, my background is academia before I got into entrepreneurship. So my editor told me it was excessive for a 200-page book to have 116 citations. But that's just, for me, that's just you just backed up your stuff,
Yeah.
You just cited your sources.
Yeah.
So my book's been called A Weekend MBA. It's been called, just like a start from scratch, boot camp essentially of like entrepreneurship. And that's great. But the process then was I edited all of that, and then I did work with a hybrid publisher, although I'm self-publishing future books. I did work with a hybrid publisher called Morgan James to actually go through the process of they helped me find an editor and hire that editor, although I paid for the editor out of pocket. I
actually interviewed the owner of Morgan James on another podcast
David? Good.
Years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And so and we went through that whole process, cover design, formatting, all that kind of stuff, get the book distributed to different bookstores. We did a pre-launch campaign or pre-order campaign. And then, so the book's actually it came out as a #1 bestseller in direct marketing, the top 10 books in entrepreneurship on Amazon, top 5 in small business. And then it was a finalist in the Book of the Year Awards last year. So it's an award-winning best-selling book. I mean, so that's like,
heck yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That's really cool. So what do you freaking do with it? How do you convert that into a client?
Okay. So, thank you. This is what I want to talk about. This is what I'm most excited about.
You're super dope because you're basically driving around town in a red Ferrari. That's your book, but you gotta like meet people with it, right?
No, that's the thing. First thing I would say is that I have all of the accolades. It's an award-winning best-selling book, and that translates to with a rounding error, that translates to about $0 in profit. Just so let's be explicit about that. That I think people think they're like, well, yeah, most books don't make money, but mine will. I'm like, no, you're looking at a best-selling award-winning book that doesn't really make money directly. Right. And I'm okay with that.
So what does it do then? Is it an opening? Is it a door opener? Like, what does it do?
So it is a door opener. And it's a lot of things, and I'll talk about that. But first thing I will say is that it makes so little money that first of all, I give it away for $1. So you go to surviveandthrivebook.com and get a book for $1. But for all of my future books, I've already got it set up in our financial system so that every dollar or penny of profit that comes from every book is immediately funneled back into Amazon advertising and other promotional campaigns to sell more books. In other words, I'm designing this to make no money. Even when it does make a little bit of money, I immediately just use that to sell more books. But you could say I'm giving them away. Now, a book is the most powerful, I believe, it is the most powerful lead generation, indoctrination, and nurturing tool on the planet in one.
Okay. Wow.
Partly because books have been around for as long as anything. And so there's a natural authority piece there. And secondly, because less than 1% of people on the planet ever actually publish one. And so just the minute you publish it, even if someone hasn't read it, they take you seriously. I mean, that's just, and the same thing happened when I opened a co-working space. All of a sudden I was like, I've been an entrepreneur for, at this point, close to a decade, and I opened a co-working space and people were like, wow, you've got a brick and mortar. You're legit. And I was like, it literally is one of the least profitable things I do, but yeah, I guess if it makes
No,
you
I got a
cool,
lease. That's what I got.
Yeah,
It's a lease.
I got a lease. Yeah. And by the way, our space does make a lot of money now, but it just didn't. We opened 58 days before lockdown, so not a great time to.
Oh my gosh.
But so the books, it's a combination. It's a lead generation tool. It's an indoctrination and nurturing tool baked into one, and it's an authority piece. And so when someone, and I don't always know who buys my books. Like if you buy it directly through me, like the link I mentioned, surviveandthrivebook.com, you buy it from me. I sign it. I send it to you. I know who you are. I have your name. I have your address. I have your phone number. I know you got my book. I can follow up with you about that. Yeah. But the vast majority of customers buy it through Amazon. And I do have my book in all three formats. So paperback, ebook, and audiobook. So it's available on Audible and all that kind of stuff too.
Let me pause you there. How'd you get it to Audible? Did you read it or did you hire a reader?
Oh, I narrated it. I read it. I mean, that's just a personal preference thing, I guess. But I know as a consumer, when I listen to audiobooks, I think the audiobooks are better when they're narrated by the author because the author knows the why. And so I feel like the most important points are emphasized differently. And so now that's what I said before I recorded the audiobook. It's a really rigorous process to record an audiobook. I mean, even I've done podcasting for years. It's way more intense than that. And it was, but here's the other benefit that I found. The most common feedback I hear after someone listens to audiobook is, wow, I feel like we just sat down for coffee and you just gave me 3.5 hours of your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's connecting. It's voice to voice. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Whereas if I'd hired a narrator, even if the words were mine, I didn't create an emotional connection. The narrator might have. And I will say I've listened to audiobooks before where I didn't know it was a narrator, like a professional narrator. I thought I was the author. And then later I heard the author speak and was like, oh, okay, now I'm just confused, and it was like
I was going to hire a narrator for mine and just have like some super amazing voice in there. But yeah, you're right. Then they'll find out eventually.
Yeah. You could hire a model to come on here and do these live Q&As and stuff. But it's like,
what? I am the model. Chris is that guy over there. Come on. Didn't you know?
You're like offhand holding up cue cards and there's like you could hire someone who like has a quote better voice or like a better appearance or whatever to do things for you. But the reality is people are craving authenticity and connection. And I don't think you can get that by hiring a professional.
And that's the real reason for the book is that connection, that nurturing.
It's the connection. It's relationships at scale. So someone reads, so I have my highest paying clients, like we'll get in a room and we'll sit down and we get started. And I'm like, okay. And I start to mention a concept and they're like, oh yeah, that you mentioned that in your book. And I'm like, wait a minute. You read the whole book? And they're like, or one guy I was interviewing for a role as a digital marketing apprentice. I kind of opened, I said, well, I'm not sure if you're familiar with my works. And he said, I've listened to your audiobook twice and I've read the paperback with highlights and book and folded earrings all over it. Folded earrings. You know what I mean? When you fold the ear.
Yeah.
Dog ears. Yeah.
Dog ears, yeah.
And I just paused. I was like, that's the power of a book. Like no one does that with blog posts or podcast episodes. No one go back and listens to your podcast episode twice.
Right.
Like he listened to my audiobook twice and read the book and highlighted it and was considering changing careers just to work for me for free.
Holy cow. So how are you getting, so you have that person who said that. And then are you converting that person into a client or is that the goal here for you? Yeah.
So for me, I take on a little bit a minimal amount of consulting clients. I do consulting as like either a fractional CMO or we do strategic. My whole executive team will do like a fractional executive team kind of come in and be like do your strategic planning with you.
Nice.
But honestly, we take on like 10 clients or less a year. And so that's that's a very high paying small piece of my business. We're in the process of rolling out a new membership site. That's a lot of my background is running membership sites, and then I'll have a mastermind or group coaching program before too long. If you make
that's a great idea. I've heard those are really cool.
Great idea. I'm sure you'll make sure that it happens. I'm counting on you. But for me, like at this point, so I'm in like a shift where I'm in an early stage of this business. And so I've run businesses of different kinds for years. But I spent close to 4 years working with Michael Hyatt running Platform University full-time on his leadership team. He's a New York Times bestselling author, phenomenal coach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that was my focus for almost 4 years. And so then then we sold that business and I was back to square one. And I was like, okay, with what I know now, what am I going to do differently? And so I launched the co-working space, which has become an entrepreneur center, a full-fledged entrepreneur center. And then I launched the book with the plan that okay, I launched a podcast, I launched a newsletter. Next is the membership site and the mastermind group or the group coaching program. And so that's cool. Yeah. And so that's how I'm approaching this. But so each of the books that I'm writing has a tool or framework that's referenced repeatedly in the book that you have to opt into my email list to use. So in this book, it's the Thrive Score assessment, which is free. You don't actually have to buy the book to get it. So you can go to yourthrivescore.com and you can get a copy, or you can take this free assessment that assesses your business and gives you a score, your Thrive Score, based on some of the principles in the book. And now you read the book, it'll help you improve your Thrive Score and your balance sheet, but your bank accounts. But that's a huge part of it, is just converting that to email subscribers. But then throughout the book, I do reference my other products and services and projects that I'm involved in. So my second book which is called Always Be Teaching: 50 Illustrated Insights on How to Grow Your Business by Creating Content Online.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you. It's an illustrated book. It's super cool. I'm the co-founder, co-owner of a company called Notable. We have a website, a WordPress-based website building platform called Notable Press. And so that's what we want to sell, right? We want to sell Notable Press. It's this software. It's amazing. It lets you create basically your private Netflix. And so you could have some free content like a blog or podcast or videos, but you can also have very easily built into it stuff behind a paywall. I'm really proud of that software, and I built none of it because my business partner is the developer. But my second book is all focused on teaching you how to create content online to grow your business. But then the vein running through that, which is not it's not really super salesy. It's the vein running through that is okay, as soon as you're ready though, you need a platform that allows you to do all the things I just taught you to do.
Where are you going to put it?
Notable Press is that platform.
Forgive the taking it off of your platform onto somebody else's, but it's a lot like, and I'm super impressed with what Russell Brunson's done, obviously, who isn't, right? But yeah, I've been in Russell's mastermind, his high ticket mastermind. He's phenomenal guy. I don't know how to build a funnel. I actually don't even know how to log into ClickFunnels. But I noticed in his high ticket mastermind, he was writing out and teaching on a whiteboard there in Boise the same exact things that are literally in the books. It's the same information. And he's just using the books, though, like you are, to bring new people in, build the trust, and then help them actually succeed so they can use his platform. And that sounds like a lot what you're doing, too, which is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I don't have any secrets that are reserved for my clients who work with me one-on-one. I don't really, actually, I'll tell you this. The quote that's on the front of the book is an endorsement from Michael Hyatt. I don't know if you can really see it very well, but he says, if you can focus on creating real solutions to real problems for real people, you have a clear advantage in the marketplace. Survive and Thrive can show you how. And that's a real theme throughout the book. But then the full quote is actually in the back of the book, where I love Michael's endorsement actually quotes me. It says, as John says, there is no shortage of opportunity today, but there is a shortage of execution. And that's what I come back to it over again, is people are like, well, I don't want to miss out on opportunity. But there's opportunities everywhere. But what there is a real shortage of is focused execution. And so I don't keep any secret opportunities for my clients that work with me one-on-one. It's more like we walk into a room, they've already read the book, and I'm like, great, and so for example, the last client group we're working with, there's 3 business partners, 3 entrepreneurs who are at the head of the company. The CEO has read my book. He brings me in and my whole team in, because I have where we're doing strategic planning with him. I've got a CFO and a COO. And so we're we kind of a fractional executive team for them. But then he's asking us, we help them map out their plan for the year. And they're like, great, can you help us do this? And now we're working with them on a monthly basis of helping them okay, here's your action plan for the month. And we've got, we actually hired a bookkeeper to help support them. Again, that's not my full business, but that is, that's a huge revenue driver, but it's not something I'm planning to scale beyond, maybe a dozen clients a year. But it skips so much of the sales process. I don't have to convince him I know what I'm talking about. I don't have to, even the others in the room who didn't read the book. The CEO read the book and they're like, yeah, he read the book. So whatever you say.
Let me just pause there for a second. I don't think people who if you don't have your own show, if you don't have your own book, if you don't have your own platform of some sort, pick your genre, you're a blogger, you're whatever. If you don't have your own space, if you don't have your own Facebook group, it's not hard, folks, to have your own platform. Okay. There's lots of free platforms out there. Yeah. But that platform makes you it gives you practice to practice your expertise for one, but it also allows people to see you and get to know, like, and trust you, be indoctrinated by the way you think and want to pursue the world, whatever your genre of expertise is. And when they do show up for that sales call, I hate to call it a sales call, when they do show up to say, can you help me? The hard work of selling, the convincing someone that you're the person is done.
Yeah.
Like, the match is already made. Now you're just sorting out, how can I help you? Yes or no. It's really, really simple. And I love that about this book. It's just to back up, folks. If you don't have a book and you're scared of a book, and you do have a podcast, or you do have a Facebook group, or whatever you do have, like, use that.
Yes.
Build it and make it something. Don't get distracted with 5 different things at once. I gotta have a book, and I gotta have a Facebook community, I gotta have a podcast, and I gotta be on Clubhouse. You'll never get anywhere. Pick something, crush it, and build a platform.
I love that. If I can add to that, something really clever I was about to say, which just escaped me. But the book itself. Okay, here's what it is. I remember now. So Alan Dibb, author of the book, The One-Page Marketing Plan, he's a friend, and I cite him in the book. And I love one of the things that he told when I was talking to him just about what his book made possible for him. He shared that he said, I love that every morning when I sit down at my desk and open my inbox, I have basically just a menu of opportunities, because his inbox is full of people who want to work with him, because his book is so helpful. And it's sold so many copies. I mean, it's just a constant #1 global bestseller. And so for him, it's like, he's just like, he made the point. He was like, I would much rather wake up and check my email inbox and have a list of people who want to work with me. And then basically it's a menu to pick from in terms of what project I'm going to work on and who I'm going to, rather than have to go out hunting every day. Like, going to find a lead and, persuade them, it changes the entire game. And so, I think the book has been a huge thing. I've already seen just kind of the difference in terms of it changes the conversation completely. Is that even people that, like, I'm talking to and it doesn't work out, it's very much like they're like, I am so confident this would be so helpful for our business right now. Can you circle back in a couple months? Like, they're asking me. Like, I'm not saying, can I circle back in a couple months? They're asking me, like, can you come back? They want
to be engaged. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's hugely valuable. I think that, I think the books, I see that there's so much power in this, in the sense that, just the authority, the sort of like secret club of authors that all of a sudden I'm part of, of just like, it's a pretty cool world to be part of. It's a lot of work to get there, but it's very doable, and it's actually easier now than any time in the history of the planet. So might as well
take advantage of it. Yeah. The stars are aligned. Okay. So John, question here then, if you rank these,
okay,
or just pick your favorite. If you were going to start, like, okay, I'm going to sell my expertise. I'm going to build a high ticket mastermind. I'm going to do the things, going to take on coaching clients, whatever. You're starting that. You want to be attracting people in. Would you write a book first? Would you start a Facebook group first? Would you get big on Clubhouse? Would you start a podcast? Like, of not just those things, but of all the things you can do to pick a platform and go with it. Which one would you start with? If you were starting from scratch?
If I'm starting from scratch, literally no one knows who I am. Then I would, now that I've done this, I would do a book first, and I would give it away as many times as I could.
Okay. Wow. That's
because
good.
Again,
that's pretty powerful. That's a good answer.
Yeah. I would give away as many copies as I could. There's a study, and I just learned this from Tim Grahl, and he's a friend who's got a phenomenal business helping people get best-selling books. And they just analyze a bunch of data and find out that if you can sell 10,000 copies of your book, then you have a 1 in 8 chance of selling 100,000 copies of your book. And the reason is, and that's huge, because because it's very hard. There's no real way to sell 100,000 copies. Like, nobody can tell you how to sell 100,000 copies. But if you can sell 10,000, and he's got a path to sell 10,000, which is great, a great framework. If you can sell 10,000, you can sell 100,000. If you can sell 100,000, you can sell 1 million. And the reason is because books live. I mean, even when someone doesn't read a book, it sits on their bedside table, and every day they see your name, they see the promise of how you can help them, and they think about you. And then it's something physical. They could, well, in this case, a physical book. It doesn't have to be, but when they do sit down and read it, if they like it, they're going to tell their friends. I mean, that's just people talk about most of the books that I read. This is true for everybody. Most of the books that I read, they came from a recommendation of a friend, of someone I trust. And so the only way to really get a book to spread dramatically is actually to kind of seed word of mouth by getting enough people to read the book that they're going to tell other people about the book. Yeah, there are things you could do on Amazon to optimize your listing or, get, rank in the algorithm, but that's actually not the most significant thing you can do. It's spreading the word about your book. Yeah.
I love what you're saying here. I'm holding for those of you who are listening audio, I'm holding a marker in my hand. My desk is a grease board, a whiteboard.
Good.
I hardly ever, John, take notes while I'm in a show with somebody like this, and I am taking notes today. I love what you just said about that. Sounds so stupid, because I know everything, John. I don't have to take notes. That's not what I meant.
No, I know what you mean. You're the host, but you're the host. Yeah.
So, name and promise, that is such a big deal. If you can find a place in someone's real day in, day out life where, in essence, they're putting you on the sticky note they put on their bathroom mirror they see every morning. Like, that's legit. And you're right. A book places you on the kitchen counter, nightstand, desk, car seat, wherever. It gets you there over and over.
Here's a real example of that. You mentioned Russell Brunson earlier. Truth be told, I've never read his books. I've intended to. I've bought all of his books, and they all sit on my shelf right by my desk. And so I 100% believe that Russell Brunson has all of the expert secrets because I see his name and his promise. Yeah. Almost every day.
You convince yourself, even though you've never cracked the cover.
Yep. Exactly. And so I think that, that's huge. And that's why I have an ebook and audiobook, but if you go to buy the book from me, I'm going to try to get you to, it's a book for $1. I'm going to try to get you the paperback because I know that's going to sit on your bookshelf or it's going to sit in your car, it's going to sit on your bedside table. And it's whatever it is, you're going to see my name and that promise over and over again. And so then, when my name pops up in your email, because I've sent you some sort of some part of my Thrive School newsletter, or if you see me in the podcast app, you're going to immediately associate that with my name and my promise that you've seen in the book. And then so that's going to mean that's going to set me apart from a lot of other people on that list.
All right. So, John, because we're going to run out of time here, surviveandthrivebook.com is the domain to go to, folks. Super easy. Surviveandthrivebook.com. If you're listening, surviveandthrivebook.com. I've dropped this in the link of the comments. I'll drop it in the heading of this post too. And here's why I'm saying this. John and I don't have any kind of financial arrangement. I don't get a percentage of the dollar you have to spend to get this book. But truly,
there's none left. There's none left to share, Chris. It cost me $2 to print the book.
John's figuring this out. So, two things here: go get the freaking book, and go take when you get the book, you can go take the assessment. What's the domain for the assessment as well?
It's yourthrivescore.com.
Yourthrivescore.com. Okay, so go do the things spend $1 on John's book. All right, I'm gonna grab this domain and pop it right here in the chat. Hang on. So I'll pop it in here as a banner as well, so you guys can just see it if you're watching this way. So there, yourthrivescore.com. Go to those two locations, surviveandthrivebook.com, yourthrivescore.com, and just do the thing. Now, here's the magic of this. You're going to freaking learn something because John set it up so you can. You're going to get in his funnel. You're going to get his emails. The things are going to start happening, right? So there's a chance you might become a follower and fan of John, but there's a chance that you might just learn something by watching how he does it.
Sure, please copy.
Yeah. The worst thing that can happen is you have to unsubscribe from his newsletter after 3 months because you're done. Bottom line is, though, when you see somebody like John doing something, you're like, I could do this. Go follow it. Go do it. John's got the answers. How simple is that?
Thank you, Chris. You're too kind.
Not at all. It's true. I don't have a book. You do. Just saying. You got several.
I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, someone who wrote the book on the subject. That's a go-to phrase on describing someone's expertise.
Yeah.
Anybody can write the book on it, but a very select few actually do.
That's a really good way to say it. So, Group Coach Nation, you're all experts. We say this all the time. Do the work to get the results. Do work, get results. No get-rich-quick schemes out there. This one's work, but you can see how the results come. Bottom line is your expertise is so important, and you got to transfer that to the next people so they can learn to know, like, and trust you. It's not rocket science. It's just relationships. But be committed to getting your expertise out there and be committed to getting paid for what you've worked to learn to change people's lives. It works both ways. We all win at that game. All right, John, dude, thanks so much. Again, yourthrivescore.com, surviveandthrivebook.com. Any last words you want to say, John?
Well, first of all, at the risk of confusing people by throwing in a third call to action, don't forget the Thrive School podcast with Chris Williams. Check it out. But right. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I mean, please keep up the good work. I think it's important. Here's the thing: the world is full of problems that need solutions, and I'm a believer. I love coaching. I love consulting, but I also believe that there are more problems out there than I could personally put my hands on and solve. And that's why a book removes those limits. Where now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, somebody. There are bookstores in like Singapore and the United Arab Emirates that are carrying my book. And I'm like, I will never, I should say that. I don't know if I'll ever travel to those countries and do any consulting, but I know that my book is there doing the good work, and your book can do the same thing.
I want to see you in a bookstore in Dubai doing a book signing. That'd be freaking awesome.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I need to do that kind of book tour. That's the kind of book tour.
Yeah. If anybody knows how to do that, call John, because he's ready with plane tickets right now.
Yeah.
Right. John, thanks again for your time, man. So glad to have you here. Really great to have you here.
Thank you,
everybody reach in. If you have questions on this post as well, as always, feel free to send us a message if you want to make comments in the post. We'll tag John in there and get you answers back. We just want to help you crack the code on this stuff. You got this. It's not rocket science. It's just work. You do it smart, you'll get the results. All right. John, all the best.
Thank you, sir. Take care.